Please welcome Mike Hodges.
All right. It's ironic that I follow Tom because we had a pilot. We were the first newspaper to do a reselling pilot program where we resold Pandora. And actually, we're having a lot of success with it. I think maybe so much that they actually pulled that back from us, and we're no longer selling that. So anyway, we were partners for a while there, Tom.
Oh, if Tom didn't leave, he could take that message back.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is. Okay, Tom, take that message back.
And the ads performed very well, just so you know.
That leads right into my first question, Mike, which is, you know, you're at the helm of what used to be called a newspaper company. What is a newspaper company today? And the reason I ask is because I have to feel like that provides some insight to people who are in local media companies that are broadcast, because it's kind of the same problem.
Yep. Yeah, I think, you know, today's newspaper business is more of a multimedia company. And, you know, if you look at the fact that, you know, most newspapers established a website around, you know, sort of late 1990s and kind of dipped our toe into that space, right? And started to build and slowly grow that audience, not fast enough, quite honestly. But, you know, now newspapers are reselling a lot of products, i.e. when we resold Pandora, I mean, we're a reseller of Google. We resell email marketing databases, that type of thing. So I think, you know, the way that we look at the business, you know, we have, in any market, a newspaper typically has the largest sales force, right? So we're trying to figure out, okay, how can we leverage that sales force and, you know, the large group of merchants and advertisers that we work with on a daily basis? How can we leverage that to sell more, right? So we've got a whole team that just focuses on that. What can we sell beyond, you know, just print and even digital? On the content side, it's the same thing, right? So in most markets, once again, a newspaper has the largest content generation team, you know, the largest group of writers. So how can we leverage that group of writers to do more than just put together, you know, a story and put it in print or put it online? So, you know, we probably think differently than a lot of newspapers in that regard, and really sort of focus on how do we leverage the assets to be this multi-platform company.
How do you leverage the assets? So, I mean, that is somewhat analogous to the broadcast situation, because while they don't have as big a sales force as you, they have a sales force. While they don't have as big a content creation mechanism as you, they have a content creation mechanism. What you're saying is you're looking for new ways to provide value in both directions to consumers and advertisers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, it's no secret that the number of print subscribers is going down, right?
Yeah.
Print advertising is going down. So, you know, if we continue to go down that path, that's sort of a path to nowhere. So, you know, we've got to innovate. We've got to have, you know, new products and, you know, new ways to garner audience so we can monetize it. And that's, you know, it's the same for any, you know, radio station or any TV station. I mean, we're all going through the same thing right now. Is, you know, how can we sort of innovate to evolve the model?
So what is the answer to that? I mean, how do you kind of manage that process?
Well, it's interesting.
Because you're dealing with a very long-standing company, right? With a lot of people who've been there a long time, a lot of people. And these people had certain defined jobs, and they coasted through those jobs for years because it was newspapers. It was awesome. And you've had to shake that up. I mean, how have you managed that?
Yeah, I think it starts with, you know, really with leadership, because if you have traditional newspaper people running the company trying to innovate, you're going to struggle. So, you know, what we did at UTSanDiego, I was fortunate to come along with the private equity company, Platinum Equity, that bought the company. And in essence, we started over. We basically, every single person from the VP level and above, you know, was let go. And with that, we brought in people like myself, where, you know, my background's more on the digital side. You know, I've only been in newspapers about 5 years. We brought in, you know, people that had, you know, strong sort of entrepreneurial business development type of, you know, backgrounds. But then we also brought in people that were very, very strong in certain core competencies that we needed to keep within the print business. So, you know, as I look at our team now, you know, our VP of circulation, for instance, which is sort of the bread and butter of, you know, distributing the paper and managing the operations, that person is a long-standing newspaper guy, and he's one of the best. As I look at the, you know, our editor of the newspaper, Jeff Light, who you know, his background's in digital, my background's in digital. You know, our sales leader has a strong background in digital. So, you need to have that sort of right balance of people that have the traditional background as well as sort of the entrepreneurial background.
You're talking a lot about recruiting now, and it seems to me that you've recruited an awful lot of people from an awful lot of places outside the newspaper space in a fairly short period of time.
Yeah, we have, and I think it's, we've been fortunate because we've had some success. It's been easier to recruit. At the outset, it wasn't, because people were looking like, why would I want to go work at a newspaper? I mean, you look at, Tom was talking about recruiting talent. When you're a traditional company, when you've got these young people coming up, they're looking like, do I want to really work for a newspaper? No. Do I want to work for a multi-platform, multimedia company? Maybe, right? So, we've been able to, I think, certainly over the last 2 or 3 years, bring in new, fresh talent that, 3-4 years ago would have said, there's no way I'd ever work for a newspaper. I said there's no way I'd work for a newspaper. I mean, I got into the business in sort of a weird way. But as I got into it, it intrigued me because of the assets, right? Because of, man, we've got this huge audience, and we've got this huge, database of merchants and advertisers. I mean, I was totally intrigued by it, right? And I think we're, finding more and more people that feel the same way.
Well, and let's talk about those assets, because, the scope of UTSanDiego is pretty broad. Why? It's kind of the anti-Pandora in the sense that Pandora is very simple, and UTSanDiego has a lot of moving parts. Why so many moving parts? Why is that important?
Well, I think it's probably less moving parts, but more sort of product-driven.
Products, that's
right?
what I mean.
So, and I think for us, I mean, we know where print's going. I mean, we know. What's interesting right now on the print side of the business is it's starting to stabilize a bit. We're kind of getting to a number of subscribers, and it's mainly people that are above the age of 40 that are used to getting the paper. Baby boomers are living a lot longer, so I mean, the runway for print is probably longer than I thought when I got in the business. But we can't just survive on that alone, right? So, now we're into completely new businesses, whether they're digital businesses or, we just launched a TV station. You've got to find products or platforms that can where you can leverage the audience you've got to sort of move them to another platform, right? And that's really all we think about. I mean, we talk about, Thomas talk about what he thinks about when he goes into work. It's like, for me, I've got really strong people that are focused on the print side of the business. So when I walk into work, I don't say, oh God, how are we going to just keep driving this print? I'm thinking about, where are we going next?
So, and I'm keying in on what you just said. You find people, and you find other platforms to put them on. We spent a lot of the day talking about platforms. How important is that platform strategy, the fact that you have all these different products and you're communicating about each of them to the consumers that you have on each?
I think on the audience side, at the core of our business is, delivering news, right? So at the core of everything we do, it's that. And so as we look at the business, we've got to deliver that on all the platforms now, right? Because we've got people that are, the growth on our mobile site is just, it's going like this. It's literally a hockey stick. Why is that? It's because people are using their mobile phones more than ever. And, the same with iPad. So, at the core, we have content generators, content producers, and our job is to make sure that that content gets on every single platform seamlessly and in a way that, the consumer can sort of digest it and appreciate it. So, and with that, you need technology as well to do that, right? So you've got to make it very easy for a writer to submit a story and make sure that it can get to mobile and get to the website and get to the iPad and eventually get to print and then also get to television.
How would you describe your interactive strategy for the brand? I mean, it's clearly not just putting news online.
Yeah, I mean, the interactive part is interesting because I don't ever see a day where newspapers will be able to generate enough digital revenue based on just articles and having ads next to those articles. Because, banner ads are, although it's a big part of our business, it just will never reach sort of the revenue and the profitability that the print has. So as we look at digital, we look a lot at transactional businesses. So, how can we get in the middle of a transaction? How can we pair a consumer with a merchant and get in the middle of the transaction? And we did that with the Daily Deal. So we were the first newspaper in the country to launch a daily deal. We looked
For
at
Groupon, right?
no. Groupon was first. We looked at what Groupon was doing. We said, well, we can do this. My God, you're going out and you're using an email database, and then you're matching it with merchants, and then you have an e-commerce engine, and then you're taking like half of the transaction value. We're like, done.
Sounds good.
We built it. In 2.5 months. So, and we've been the #1 newspaper in the country in terms of revenue with the daily deal. So that's an example of a transactional business where you're less reliant on selling, ads against the content.
Okay. What investments did the brand have to make, and how did you figure out what the right ones were? Technically, you could do anything you wanted. I mean, how do you choose on what investments to make to better the brand over the long haul?
Yeah. It's interesting. One of the, with our new owners who are actually San Diego-based guys, John Lynch and Doug Manchester, one of the first investments we made was actually back into the print product, because the print product had gone down, and it wasn't designed right, and it just looked so old school. And so the first investment was actually, let's make the print product better. And the first focus was on Sunday, because for any newspaper, Sunday is where we drive all of our revenue and all of our profit, because that's where a lot of the advertisers want to be, right? So we had a big, 6-month initiative where, we designed a whole new sort of strategy and game plan about how the paper's designed, how we're going to go to market to get subscribers, how we're going to, work to find advertisers. And so we sort of started with the core product, right? And then beyond that, we looked at, okay, well, where do we get the most eyeballs on any platform? Well, that's our website. And so, like you mentioned before, it was interesting. The UT was one of the first newspapers to start a website way back when. For some reason, they called it Sign On San Diego, which was totally old school, like AOL, sign on, right?
Right.
And so about a year and a half ago, we said, well, that's just a tired brand, and it's a tired website, and we need to sort of align the print brand with the digital brand. And we really, in essence, rebranded the company UTSanDiego, and that's our URL, UTSanDiego.com. So, we built a brand new website. We've since built, an iPad app. We have a new mobile app. For those that were here earlier today, you probably saw Chad Robley speak from Mind Groove. We outsourced all of that development to his company. Why did we do that? Because I spent my first year trying to recruit people to come work for a newspaper and couldn't find good engineers, UI people, UX people. It was impossible.
That relates to your question, Michelle. From earlier.
Yeah, exactly. So we said, well, let's go find, the top digital agency in town, and that's what we did. And so it's been a great marriage. So all of the core big time development goes to those guys. And, because of that, it's, we feel like we're getting a lot better product than if I went out and hired a bunch of people from off the street.
One thing I've noticed about you is that you provide people space to fail. They're not necessarily costly experiments, but you allow people to try new things. You've got experiments going on at UTSanDiego that a lot of people don't even know about. How do you justify that at a time when the screws are always so tight for financial results?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're fortunate that we've had such strong financial performance over the last really 3 years that we've sort of earned the trust of the owners to be able to experiment. And not every, sort of traditional media company has that luxury, but, we worked our tail off to get, when Platinum Equity took over the UT was losing $1 million a month. $1 million a month it was losing. We completely turned that around, and this year we'll probably do $30 million in profit. And so with that, we've got the ability to innovate, and not everything we do works. But we've got sort of the support of the owners. We've got a team that can execute and try to put together new products or new lines of business very quickly. And some completely fail, and others work, and so. But
I guess my question is, how do you, what is your strategy to say, here, yes, you can do this? I know you've got cover from above.
Yeah.
But my question is, what makes you say that?
Good question. I look at, I really look at where sort of the trends are going. So go back to the whole Groupon model. We saw that trend. Like, we can take advantage of that. There is about to be, and it's already happening, a major disruption in television. And, with people cutting, the cable cord and, there's going to be this interesting sort of internet-based TV, phenomenon that's happening now. And you wait 5 years, it's going to be, it's going to be very, very interesting. So, we got into the TV business. So we're the only newspaper in the country that has a 24/7, TV station right within the content center of our traditional newsroom. And when we initially looked at the business, we actually went out and had meetings with all the local TV stations to see about a partnership. Mm-hmm. And as we sat with these guys, we said, we just felt like we can do this ourselves. We know it's going to take a longer investment. It's going to take time to sort of build it. But to partner it, given the assets that we were bringing to the table in terms of the big, huge newsroom and the access to merchants and advertisers, we said let's go ahead and do it ourselves. And so that TV station is a larger investment. It's probably the largest investments we've made in the last 5 years. But where that is going and where we see television and where we see it sort of internet, mobile-based, we think we're well positioned to take advantage of it in the future.
And I think it's important to note that this is the talk of someone who is at the helm of what used to be called a newspaper company. I mean, if there's any other illustration that the borders are fuzzier than ever if they exist at all, that's pretty much it, isn't it?
Yeah.
One of the things you're involved in, one of your initiatives is a rewards program. Now, when we think of rewards, we think of things that benefit the brand, me. But that's not what yours is it?
Yeah, it's interesting. So we've learned a lot from being in this daily deal business, and you guys have probably read the stories about Groupon and Living Social and how they're sort of going backwards. We're feeling the same phenomenon, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Because what has happened is the merchants, in that business model, the merchant has to give a 50% discount, 50 to 90% to the consumer, and then they need to share 50% of the revenue with us. Mm-hmm. So they're netting maybe 25%, 10, 15. And I think what we found over the last few years is that the real strong merchants in a market are just not interested in giving up that sort of margin going forward. So we've really spent the last 2 years trying to figure out, well, how can we get those merchants to come back and do business with us in this transactional model? And what we're about to launch here in July is a rewards program, which in essence ties our consumer subscribers' credit cards to participating merchants. And as our subscribers go in there to the merchants to have a meal or get their dry cleaning or get their oil changed or what have you, they're going to earn cash back on their credit card. So so it's a reward for me, the consumer. It's a reward. And you are enabling. It's a reward for the consumer. The UT sits in the middle of it, and the merchants get new customers into their stores. And oh, by the way, for the merchant, they're also getting sort of data and analytics that they've never received before because it's all sort of credit card driven, right? So we'll be able to tell the merchant, what people spent when they came into the store, how often they frequented, how much did the people that we brought in spend above and beyond, let's say, their normal ticket price, right? And with that data, once again, all we're doing is collecting a commission. So all the marketing, trying to get these subscribers, these consumers into the merchant, that's all free. There's nothing up front. It's all pay for performance. And I can get into this even if I'm not a subscriber, right? You can. But the way we're going to market is we're positioning it more as a subscriber benefit. Right. And so our sort of long range view and goal is, we want people to be earning more cash back through our loyalty program, our rewards program, mm-hmm. than they're paying us for the newspaper subscription. Because when we send them that bill at the end of the month, we want to say, you know what? Your bill is, $25, but oh, by the way, did you know you earned $42.50 this month? I think the important takeaway from that is that what you're describing is that what used to be called the newspaper company is now at the center of a relationship between consumers and advertisers that benefits consumers, that benefits advertisers, and also benefits you. Yeah. So now you're the mediator in this relationship, right? Yeah, absolutely. That's really what a local media company is now. Totally, and once again, it's the model we're talking about right now is more pay for performance, right? So it's back to sort of the Google model. It's like, well, you don't pay until someone actually clicks on that ad and goes to your website. In this model, the advertiser doesn't pay us a dime unless we actually drive someone into their store. When we drive them into their store, we're going to take a commission for that. Mm-hmm. And this is the kind of thing, again, we get stuck in business models when we're in the radio industry. We get stuck in,
cost per point, we get stuck in, here's our ranker and so on. And what I like about what you're saying is that this is a completely different business model. This is something enabled by the fact that you have all these relationships. If you didn't have these relationships with consumers and advertisers, you couldn't do this. And frankly, in this market, you may be the only thing at scale that can do this, right?
I mean, maybe. I mean, I think any other sort of large media company could probably do what we're doing. Maybe not to the scale, but every TV station has a database of customers. Every radio station has a database of customers. So
they're not thinking about it that way, are they?
Well, they need to start, I guess, right?
Well, they will now after this conversation. How is the ad sales team structured in terms of, are they selling platforms? Are they selling single products? How many sellers? How many managers? How does that work?
We're trying to position the sales team to be that one-stop shop for the advertiser. So we have sort of general salespeople that are divided up into what we have sort of three key categories. One is large national accounts. Mm-hmm. The second is what we call our key accounts, and those are sort of local, sort of major accounts. Michael Warburton's company, San Diego Zoo, is one. They're a big brand here in San Diego. That'd be a key account. And then we have a group focused on the SMB market, right? So, mm-hmm. And within those three, we are trying to train our people to be able to sell print, digital, and television. Okay, but we also know that it's very difficult to find rock star sellers that can completely articulate all the different platforms. So, depending on the opportunity, we would bring in a TV sales expert for a large TV opportunity, a digital sales expert for a digital opportunity. We have our rewards and daily deal team that's selling that platform. So the largest group of salespeople that we have are sort of general salespeople that kind of sell all platforms. But then we've got specialists that can come in and help close a deal with a particular line of business.
Mm-hmm. And you put a lot of effort into events as well, I noticed. There seem to be a lot of UTSanDiego events.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's another line of business.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, newspapers and radio stations are great at throwing events and getting people to come to experience something. And I think before, at least in our case, we would throw these events and it wasn't really a money maker because we weren't thinking strategically enough about it. But now we're trying to figure out, okay, how can we make money at these events as well? In fact, last fall we threw a concert down, actually not too far from here, where we brought in a bunch of bands and made a nice profit from it, and it's just something that wouldn't have been a traditional part of our business. But events are, once again, you're leveraging the fact that you get to the audience to try to get them to the event, and if you can throw the event such that the merchants are happy about it, you can make a profit from it. So.
Now, increasingly, UTSanDiego is in the business as well of creating specific content for specific advertisers. You're kind of leveraging your content machine in service to some of the advertisers. How does that work?
Yeah, that's sort of the native advertising that Tom was talking about earlier. I mean, it's native advertising, sponsor content. At the end of the day, it's just advertorial. And, I think what you're finding, especially with a lot of these websites, like a BuzzFeed, for instance, it's just going through the roof. I mean, their whole ad model is based on native advertising and sponsored content. So once again, we're looking at that saying, well, why can't we do that? We should be able to do that. So we have programs now for an advertiser where they can not only get sort of almost their own landing page within UTSanDiego.com, but they can have their own print page as well. And we're looking right now at having advertisers sponsor sections and have where they can sort of tell their own story in an advertorial type of fashion, and then also that translates to the web. And when it translates to the web, because of the sort of the link juice that our website has as being the biggest locally, when those articles appear, they rise on top of Google very quickly. So in a way, it becomes this sort of SEO play for the brand in the form of native advertising sponsored content.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Mike Hodges, it is always a pleasure. I'm so glad you could be here joining us today. Mike Hodges is the COO of UTSanDiego. Thank you, Mike. Thank you.